All right, this is a fun one. We're here with Tilden Hooper, the #1 world ranked bareback rider. And this episode is brought to you by Cinch Jeans, who Tilden you've worked with for quite a while. Awesome company. And we're going to be doing a giveaway with this podcast, which is really cool. Some Cinch Jeans stuff, some Whiskey Riff shop stuff. Cinch Jeans is an awesome Western wear company, jeans and all this other good stuff. So we're going to paste that giveaway everywhere we share this. And so awesome company. Tilden, I don't even know where we begin, but Wes and I were talking. We're kind of new to this whole thing a little bit, like the rodeo thing. I just mentioned to you before we went on, moving to Colorado. I'm seeing it a lot. Colorado Springs has rodeo stuff. Denver does. How did you get into it? How did you start?
Man, I didn't grow up around it either, honestly. So maybe it'll be easier for me to kind of translate to you guys. But I got interested in rodeo whenever I was probably, I don't know, 13, 14 years old. I had some friends that were, I grew up in a small town in East Texas, and like a lot of baseball, football, just your normal sports, but a lot of agriculture, a lot of cowboys. There's actually a handful of really great cowboys come from the area. And anyway, friends of mine competed in the sport, and one of my friends rode bulls. His dad raised bucking bulls, and I don't know, I just fell in love with the idea of being a cowboy, and I read some books and watched some movies, and just, man, and then I just started aggravating my parents until they let me try it. And then it wasn't a fast deal for me. It's not something I picked up real quick. I wasn't raised around horses and everything, so it took a while to get comfortable with that aspect of it. A horse and a bull and an
Right.
animal that size it can be intimidating. And so it's just took a while to get comfortable with, but it's something I knew from the very beginning that it's what I wanted to do. I wanted to be a rodeo cowboy, and I've been blessed enough that things turned out the way they did, and I've got to live this lifestyle for the last 13, 14 years.
I feel like that's something that every like young kid, especially boys, are like, I want to be a cowboy with like the guns and the horses and the roping. And but like not nobody, but like not that many of us actually go out and pursue that.
Well, it's like, oh,
Yeah,
cowboy,
no,
that's a real
you're
thing.
right. It's a pretty much, a lot of young guys want to be a cowboy, and that's exactly how my deal started. I just like, hey, I want to be a cowboy. Hey, we don't have horses, we don't have cows. What's the next best deal? I go ride a wild one or something. Compete in the rodeos, and it's the coolest lifestyle. It's the best. I mean, it's awesome.
Well, you go ahead, Wes.
I was gonna say, what does like a day to day for you look like
Yeah.
now? Like, do you like practice or I mean, I imagine you probably practice quite a bit, or is it just at this point like I compete when I compete and I've had enough practice to where I don't need to like do that?
It's kind of like anything. It requires what it requires at that point in time in your career. And when I first started out riding, it was practice as much as I could, whether it be you don't get the opportunity. It's not like playing baseball. You can't just go out in the backyard and ride a bucking horse, right? So it's like there's other things you do, as far as like there's a stationary deal we call a spur board, where you get on and you go through the motions and you kind of get down the muscle memory, and you practice on that, doing things correctly for a long time, and then you end up working up to getting on a horse. And like the thing about the bareback riding, as opposed to like bull riding and other events, it's there's not like a miniature bareback. I mean, I guess there is, but it's not the same, right? Like you can get on a steer or a calf before you get on a bull, but there's really nothing to get on before you get on a big bucking horse, and so you dive into that, and every chance you get to get on horses and stuff, you take it. And so growing up, that's what it looked like for me. And once I got into high school and in college age, I competed in college on a college rodeo scholarship, and at the junior college there in my hometown, they had a college rodeo program, so they had a practice kind of deal set up once a week. We would practice there, and but once I turned 18, I also turned professional and started competing at PRCA rodeos all over the country. And by the time I was 20 years old, I had qualified for the national finals and was making a pretty good living riding bareback horses. And so, when you're competing in 100 rodeos a year, you're not going to also be practicing at home too. So now, after my rookie year in the PRCA was in 2007, so I've been around for quite a while at this point. The majority of my practice comes in live competition, as far as actually riding. On the other side of that, now it's keep my body in shape and stay physically fit enough that my body is able to take the abuse and to be able to compete at that high of a level. So it's less actually riding horses and more time in the gym now, I guess.
Well, yeah, we're definitely going to get to that because we had a lot of questions about the workout and the strength and all that. But you ever see these videos of like a drunk girl or a guy sometimes, these bars with the electric bull, and it's like in the middle of the bar and you get on it and he's like, is that practice? Do you think those people, if you crank it up, they always fall off? Do you ever get on that? Would you ever get on that after a few too many and just like show up the whole room?
I have done that several times. A lot, most of us all have, but it's not. I mean, it's a fun thing to do at the bar, and it's a close. It's probably fairly as close as you're going to get without actually maybe getting on a live animal. But it's no comparison. There's just it wouldn't be like a good practice scenario, but it's fun to do and make everybody scream and yell and have a good time.
I imagine you're much better at that than everybody else, though, right?
I don't know. I like to think I'm a lot better at most everything than everybody else, but I don't know. Maybe just then I might be a little better than your standard drunk girl.
There's some provocative videos of that. I don't know if you've seen them. Like they go viral.
I was involved with a deal in Vegas one time at the PBR bar where we judged a mechanical bull riding competition. A friend of mine, Douglas Duncan, and I. And, you definitely see some things, that's for sure.
It's a celebrity guest judge.
That's funny.
Oh, that's cool.
Real quick, yeah, because you mentioned the working out and stuff, and what do you do? Like, is it all forearm strength? Because it's like you can't be a huge guy physically, right? Most guys are in a certain realm, but you guys probably have insane like wrist, forearm, hand strength, right? If I'm mistaken.
I mean, you got to have all around general core strength, no doubt. But it's a lot of core strength. It really is, and a lot of like your posterior chain, like your back muscles and your glutes, and like because the momentum of a horse, like the way it's bucking, it's always trying to pull you forward. So any of the muscles you use to pull yourself back and to set your hips forward, you're going to have a lot of hips, a lot of core, just a lot of core strength, a lot of balance. There's no perfect size to do this. It's obviously, anything, the more compact you can make yourself, probably the easier it might be. But I'm not a real small guy. I weigh 180 pounds. I'm pushing 6 foot tall, and there's a handful of guys a little bigger than me. You get a little bigger than that, you're probably kind of pushing it a little bit in my event. There might be other events that suit you better, but it's definitely not something you can, I mean, you're not going to, go into the gym and do enough push-ups and sit-ups and bench press, that it's going to make you be able to ride a bucking horse. You still have to ride the bucking horse, right? But you do have to be strong enough to handle your own body weight. And then the bareback riding, the event I compete in, is the most physically demanding on your body, right? And so like if you don't have the muscle there to take that abuse and to just kind of be more or less padding and stuff, you're just going to rip you apart, right? So it's like most of the stuff I do and a lot of the guys, you're not trying to get huge. You're just trying to be able to be big enough to handle your own body weight, be really strong in your core, and then be big enough that you can take a little bit of abuse,
Mm-hmm. It's interesting.
Well, even like the head snaps, like I was like watching some of your videos before this, and it looks like your head's just like, I'm like, how do you not like break your neck doing that?
Yeah, that was kind of the only injury that I've really dealt with is I had a single level fusion in my neck whenever I was like 23, 24 years old, and just due to the abuse up to that point, and that's a pretty young age to have something like that happen, but a lot of whiplash, a lot of your head whipping around, and I was so fortunate whenever I had that surgery. I met a chiropractor who's became a close personal friend of mine that's rehabbed me through all of this stuff and put me with the right surgeons, and he tailors my workouts to whatever I'm doing. His name's Sean Scott, and anyway, Sean, he's just worked with me daily, and like he built that neck roll thing that I wear on the back of my neck. If you saw those videos, right? Like, and that's a little beefier than what a lot of the guys use, but just due to the problems that I've had in the past, I choose to, kind of take it more as a preventative type deal. But your head's going to be whipping around,
right?
And the horse's butt like hits you like kind of right here too. Like if you're coming back when they're coming up, that's a huge impact right there.
I miss the old day. I don't know if you're a football fan, but like the old days of the fullback, the fullback would wear the neck thing would go all the way up, because all the fullback used to do it is just fucking run in the I formation and block a guy. They didn't do it. Now most teams don't even have a fullback on the roster, but like similar concept, right? Because you're going to be snapping your neck. You don't want your head to completely snap off your head. So boom,
absolutely. Some
thing.
horses are going to be a little easier than others. They're going to be, maybe not whip you around as much, but the point where you get on a bareback horse, you're running up the middle and you're fist to take a hit. Like some will get worse than others, but you're not going to step out of there without getting hit once or twice. I don't feel like normally. And, it's a full contact sport. The bareback riding to me is as close to being like a fight almost, because like that horse is going to land a few on you. You're going to land a few on them. It's just, sometimes you step away, you don't know what the hell just happened. And sometimes you step away and you feel like you just knocked them out the first punch. Like it's just, it's something different every time, depending on the difficulty of the animal.
Do horses on the circuit kind of get like a reputation where it's like, oh, I got to ride this one today? Fuck, like that's a badass horse, or I'm gonna take that son of a bitch down. Is it kind of like
it's
that?
Exactly like that? Yeah, it is. And horses, like in general, like one of the coolest things about not growing up around this and then getting involved in rodeo, horses are so freaking cool. Like, they're the smartest, most intuitive animals. They can feel, like if you're worked up, like they can feel it, right? Like if you're calm, they can feel it. They all have such different personalities. Even the bucking horses, like they're bred to do this, right? Like they're just like race horses. They're just like anything, their whole family's done this, and this is what they were bred to do, right? So like you get them in these situations, and some of them are just slam crazy, just like you would imagine, right? Like they're just trying to tear down everything, just go nuts. And then some of them walk in there just like real calm. Like one of the more famous ones right now is a horse called Virgil, and he's big, huge gray horse, and he's going to walk in there and like just kind of like throw his head over the chutes and just sit there and look around, man. And then like after they go out there and kick ass, they kind of take a little lap with their head up. Like the horses are like
swagger.
One of my very favorite part, but they do get reputations, right? Like, cause you like, we're going to go to the national finals rodeo in December, and there's 10 rounds out there. And so there's 5 different kinds of horses that we buck 2 times out there. So like one round will be kind of the easier ones to get started, right? The next round's a step up from that. The third round, kind of a step up from that. The fourth round, you get to the fourth round, and they're the kind that, they'll hurt you. Like guys don't mess around with those horses. Like some guys don't even want to get on horses like that. Like you're going to get guys thrown down. We call it the eliminator pin, and then the next night you go on to the 5th round, and it's the TV pin, and it's the greatest bucking horses in the world. They'll be jumping 4 foot in the air, kicking over the top of their head, and guys are going to make great rides. But you have to be able to ride each different kind of horse to be able to, succeed out there and to succeed throughout the course of the year. And you're going to draw different horses at different places. And sometimes you get one of those rougher ones and you're like, man, screw this. Like, this ain't what I was looking for today, especially when your buddy's going to be on one of those real easy ones. But it's just it's the nature of the beast, a cowboy is a cowboy when it's easy and when it's not, and so it's a cool lifestyle to be a part of, and it's a cool way to make a living.
Yeah, when you talk about so you have obviously you guys who are like that, like the athlete or the, you got to keep yourself in shape and all that stuff. Then you have the horse, but then even when you talk about horse racing, you see like the drug doping thing. Is this at all? Because Wes and I were talking before we went on, talking about baseball and stuff, like the steroid era, and like, is that a issue ever? I'm like, I literally have no idea if it is.
No, not in our sport. It's just like, it'd be like me taking steroids. It wouldn't benefit me any to be any bigger or stronger. Like the horses are the same kind of deal. You know what I mean? Like they're already big and strong and really good at what they do. If like any sort of supplementing they do to these horses are just to make them more healthy, and it's like the like our industry, especially just the agriculture industry and then the rodeo industry, they tend to lean more towards the side of going the all natural route and doing doing what's
nice,
what's good for you and what's good for the animal. And that's how I approach my diet. And I would imagine, based off of what I know about most of the horses, it's similar to that. Like it's nothing to try to get an advantage. If anything, it's more or less to keep them healthy and keep them doing what they're doing,
Yeah, I didn't know if like back in the days of baseball, right? Or like if you guys were like, hey, did you hear about so and so, that we think he's on that Jose Canseco shit.
Yeah, right. Like really in rodeo, like you travel so much and you're cruising around in shitty vans so much. Like if a guy eats 3 or 4 square meals a day, he kind of starts looking like he's on steroids just because he's a little bigger than everybody.
Is it the kind of thing where if you make it far enough in rodeo that you can get like a tour bus, or is it mostly
like
trucks and vans?
I'm trying to find out. That's what I.
Well, to me, that's it's a similar to country music, man. And you're on a country music podcast for the most part. It's like when the artist is grinding, they're in the van. They got the little U-Haul in the back, maybe, but like they're in the van.
I listened to y'all's podcast with RC and the Amber, RC and Amber from Turnpike Troubadours, and they were talking something similar to that, and it's just like that. Like you start out rodeo in a little crappy car with your 10 buddies in there, and then you move up to a crappier car that's not quite as crappy as that one, and you might get a minivan, and then, man, I remember when we went from a minivan to a $4,000 raised roof creeper van, like full on, and that was a great day, and anyway, now I travel around in a 4-door Dodge pickup with a Capri rodeo camper on it, a Capri cab over camper. They're out of Fort Worth here. Most all the rodeo guys use them, and it's got a shower, a couple beds. It's not a tour bus, but it's rodeo's version of a tour bus, no doubt.
Wait, where's the shower?
Yeah, I was gonna
I saw the pictures of them all lined up.
They didn't look that big, right? Damn, that's impressive.
It's crazy how much room there are in there though. It's pretty neat.
Shit, that's awesome.
Yeah. Is rodeo a sport where there's like starts to become rivalries? Is there like a little bit of beef? Like I watch NASCAR quite a bit now within like the last year, and you see guys kind of getting into scraps and stuff. Is it like that, or is it pretty much family?
It's pretty much family, but imagine that, you might.
There's a few assholes.
Be more competitive with your family. I mean, we see these people every weekend, and like everyone's going through the same things you're going through, and it's more or less you're competing against the horse. But I think any of these guys that would tell you there's not some form of rivalry out there would be lying to you. Like I've traveled with the same guy for 13 years. He's 5-time world champion at this point. Like he's going to go into the Hall of Fame. His name's Casey Field. Like he's my biggest rival. Like every time I step out of the truck, I want to kick his ass. And generally if I beat him, then you usually beat everyone else too, and that's kind of how I got in the position where I'm at right now. But, like there's, all the top guys, we're all buddies and stuff, but nobody gets into riding bucking horses without having a little bit of wanting to show off and be that.
Yeah. I mean,
so it seems like it's healthy though. It's fun.
It's competitive in a way. Like Wes and I were talking about like sports where like there's not another person affecting what you're doing. It's like golf, right?
It's it seems similar,
but obviously golf is not as nearly as physically demanding. But there you start to see some rivalries right now, which is cool. Like I think for novice fans, we're like, oh, like I think
Brooks I picture and Bryson
like,
kind of thing.
Exactly. So I picture like the rodeo guys, you guys are all like hate each other, and then you go to a bar and you get like liquored up on whiskey, and then you're all like, it's like a scene out of like a Western movie. You all beat the shit out of each other.
We have a deal where like all year long we're around each other all year long, and I mean that scenario might play out once or twice throughout the course of the year or whatever. But the 2 nights before our national finals start, all the top 15 guys in the world go in the bareback ride, and we all go to dinner together, and that thing might get a little rowdy, and we have a big old time, and any unsaid things usually get.
A few arm wrestling competitions.
Do what?
Arm wrestling competitions.
Yeah, Indian leg wrestling. Whole deal.
I feel like a group of bareback riders would probably be like the baddest group of motherfuckers you would not want to mess with in a bar fight. Am I right?
I know we always think that. We haven't all had to prove it very many times, but most of us truly believe that. So.
like I could just see like something going down in a bar, and then just like, I don't know, I have this Western movie thing going on in my head, and just like
it happens, just
throwing tables, throwing chairs, busting asses.
But also
I have seen that play out before.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Wes, Cody Johnson, for example, is a country singer, right? And the Deer Rodeo documentary he's making, the song with Reba he did, he came from a rodeo background, Reba did with the remake. And if you meet him, not a huge guy, but you're like, Cody Johnson probably messed somebody up. Like, there's just like an aura about guys that came from that world to me. Like talking to you now, meeting Cody Johnson, and just his music in general. But like you're like, oh, there's like a different swag. There's like a silent swagger. It's not egotistical. It's more of like, I know I'm good and I just kind of go about my business and prove it. I don't know. Is that like a common thread?
I mean, if you're asking me, I kind of strive. I mean, I strive to not, brag on myself a lot, but to be confident in what I do. And at the end of the day, I mean, what we do is such a high risk thing that it makes you look at life a little bit different. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think most of the cowboys you're talking about and guys, have come from similar situations, and the Western way of life. I mean, it's a different thing, and being a cowboy and, that whole deal. It's why I fell in love with wanting to do this. You know what I mean? And it's just that what you're talking about. That's what I read about in these Louis L'Amour books and what I saw on TV and stuff, and that's what I fell in love with wanting to do. And so that's what I've tried to emulate with my entire career.
Is the whole buckle bunny thing, is that part of the scene? Because I hear that word all the time, and then we'll post or like you'll see a picture on social media of like a girl who's like dressed in cowboy, and all the comments are like, hey, this buckle bunny, like she's phony as shit. Is that like a real thing with like these like groupies that hang around the rodeo circuit?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's like anything else, right? Like, I mean, there's always going to be girls that like what these.
There's not a lot in the country music blogging / podcasting.
There's not a lot of those kind of groupies. Yeah, I mean, there's definitely girls that like cowboys, I guess. I assume there are. I've been married for quite a while, but I think they're still probably out there. It's just shoot. It's like anything else. A buddy of mine, he kind of summed it up one time. He said, he was a bull rider and he was running around the country riding bulls and everything. And his grandma asked him, it's like these commercials were out where it showed these guys like kind of lying about what they did. Like, hey, I'm a doctor. Like, hey, they were in Vegas. Like there were some Vegas commercials. And Clint said his grandma was like, hey, do you ever like lie about what you like tell them you're a doctor or tell them you're a lawyer or something? And he goes, me, Mom, I'm a bull rider. I don't, not really having to make things up at this point. You know what I mean?
I promise you.
It's kind of like, it works
totally
pretty good, I guess.
No, I'm just picturing Wes, like our single days. Like if you're going out in Chicago or some big city with a bunch of bars and you could prove that you're actually a bull rider, girls would just be lining up.
Yeah, totally.
100%.
We're both married now too, but
yeah, to get that out there. We didn't lie about what we never used that line.
Yeah. No, I did wear a cowboy hat out once to the bars here, and I met some ladies. We'll just leave it at that.
I think it's always I think a cowboy hat helps you stand out in a good way.
Your hair, but your not to get like about like you having the hair kind of flip out the back. That's a key thing. I have a 1-year-old now, and we got him a little Carhartt hat. Yeah. But his like hair is like comes out the back. I'm like, that's it. That's the reason it works. Yeah. Right? Like sometimes you even when you had the mustache going, I was like, shit, this kind of got a Riley Green look, a country singer, and you just look like a guy that you're like, oh, I want to hang out with that guy. I want to drink 25 beers with that guy.
I usually just do mustaches to be funny, but I always.
Oh, dude, I would stick with that.
Yeah.
I love those. Your wife might not want you to.
My wife loves. That's the other thing.
Oh, there you go.
I don't even have a good excuse not to have one because my wife loves.
Oh, see, when I do it, get out of here.
Yeah, look like a '70s porn star with a bad stash.
That's kind of how I felt.
Not in a good way.
Come on, like
I'm not going anywhere.
I cleaned up my neck before this. That's all I did. Yeah, Wes, you kind of are more patchy. You got to really keep shaving that thing and start flaring it out like a little hipster.
Yeah, I could just get the things going up here, but it's just not my strong suit. I'm not worried about it. I got married and just stopped caring. Oh,
that's what happens.
I'm like, I haven't shaved in 3 weeks. Doesn't matter. Who cares? I'm not going anywhere.
I started shaving my head. That's how little I care. Oh, no. I used to go get a haircut and and hairline's receding a little bit. I go, fuck this. I just started shaving my head.
Ripped it out. Yeah.
What's the point? I wear a hat. I don't give it. Just do it myself.
Right.
It's very old school.
Save a little money.
Man, got a little off topic there.
Yeah. Getting back to the cowboy thing, in addition to competing and stuff, do you have your own horses or your own cattle that you kind of manage, or are you straight up just riding?
I don't. I live right here in downtown Fort Worth in a neighborhood. I've never really owned any horses or cows or anything. Not to say that I don't want to. I dream of moving away from here and getting a property and having some land for my kid to grow up and live a similar life that I did. Like, I didn't grow up in town, but I didn't grow up with livestock and stuff. We grew up hunting and fishing and riding four-wheelers and playing sports and just doing all the fun stuff, and I'm hoping to, when my son's 8 months old right now, and in the next few years, I'd like to get a property a little farther out of town and raise him more like the way I was. But I definitely wasn't raised around cows or horses, and I love horses, and my wife loves horses. And one day, hopefully, maybe we'll have some horses. I don't know, but like right now, we travel so much, man. Like, I'm 30 minutes from the airport, and it's easy just to be, it's hard to leave your family with a ranch to take care of. I know a lot of my buddies that do, and with just this little house and a kid, it's plenty for my wife when I'm gone, and it's easy to travel from here. So we like it for now.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I grew up with a few horses, but my parents had no clue what they were doing most of the time. But it's just like a lot of time and work and money.
Right.
If you're traveling a lot, I can totally see why that would be.
I had probably only ridden a saddle horse maybe 6 times before I got on a bucking horse. And
Really?
still at this point in my life, I've probably ridden 20 times or less, maybe 25 times or less. Like,
Really?
I don't know why. Like, I've just been on the bucking horse side of it, and I love it. And I love riding horses and respect great horsemen and have the pleasure of knowing a handful of them, and would love to learn more about it. But just what my life has provided up to this point just hadn't been a lot of horse riding, I guess. Not a lot of regular saddle horse riding, a lot of bucking horse
Interesting.
riding.
Not on the trails.
Yeah.
Well, that makes me think too, like, we had obviously, so you were on an episode of Yellowstone, right? And I forget the season, was it season 3?
Yeah, I think whichever the last one was.
Oh,
maybe.
okay. How did that come about? Because that show's obviously, like, in its off season, as it's coming up to the new season, the show's almost like reaching its peak now, and people are just obsessing over it. And like, so you had obviously a little cameo in there, and was that just, they just came to you, say, hey, we need a guy that knows what they're doing? Or
no, not, I would love if that was what it was, but it was just a lot more random and just right place, right time sort of deal for me. The episode before that, or a couple episodes before that, they did a deal with the Steiner family, and they're a famous rodeo family from here in Texas. And they had a deal where their son got on a bareback. He's 16. I guess he's going to be 18 in a couple months. But anyway, long story short, I'd become friends with those guys, and they were in that episode. And we were up there in Utah, kind of based out of there that time of year, and they were filming there. And anyway, Sid Steiner, he asked if I'd come over and be a part of that. And we were just I flanked the horse, we helped him with some of the bucking horse stuff. Casey, the guy I travel with, he was on horseback, kind of in the arena doing some stuff. And we were just extras that day, and it was cool. Like, it was awesome just to get to see the whole process. And anyway, through that deal, we, the next few days later, I guess they were casting that part for the episode coming up. And anyway, Casey, the guy I was with, he got a text message from one of the guys that we had worked with that day, and asked if we wanted to try out for that scene or whatever. And they sent us the lines. And I honestly thought my buddy Sid, and then, his buddy and a friend of mine, Taylor Sheridan, that writes for the show and kind of is the main guy on the show, I thought they were screwing with me. Like, I thought they just wanted to like see us try to do this or something. So like, my buddy Casey, he goes and like kind of gets dressed up for the deal, and I'm just like in shorts and a t-shirt. Wasn't really going to give him the pleasure. And anyway, ended up getting the deal, and it wasn't a joke, and went over there and spent the afternoon. It was a fun little deal. I'd love to do more stuff like that.
That'd be
awesome.
cool. Little side career.
Yeah, but it was just random. Like, it was just right place, right time. And
did you meet Kevin Costner?
no, I didn't. I met Jefferson White was there that day. Eden Brolin was there that day. Forey Smith, the older cowboy. I've met him a handful of years back. He was around the rodeo scene for a long time. And Cole Hauser was there. Super nice guy. Everyone we met was really nice. It's a fun crew. It was a fun little deal. It was neat.
You say you knew Taylor Sheridan?
I've met, became friends with Taylor, I guess, through Sid Steiner, the other guy I was talking about. And it's just been cool to see what all Taylor's been doing with Yellowstone and the Western industry, man. He's he's doing it all. They're going crazy, making movies and doing a lot of stuff with the performance sports industry, and it's just a lot of fresh stuff in the Western world, and it's been fun to watch.
Do you know when season 4 is coming? Like, what's going to happen in season 4? Do you have any spoilers?
I don't have any spoilers. One of my other sponsors, American Hat, had me do some stuff online the other day, and I tried to predict that I was going to be in it and all this stuff. But so far, Taylor or Kevin Costner, no one's called yet. I got my phone ready though when they do.
Well, go ahead, Wes.
I saw that him and or Paramount Network bought the 4 Sixes Ranch down in Texas for like a possible like spinoff show, and they're just like doing everything.
They're filming a lot of stuff around here in the stockyards. I don't know how familiar with Fort Worth you guys are, but it is a freaking cool town. Like that,
I've heard that.
Awesome.
I've never
the
been.
Music scene here is badass. Like everything's. I love it here. It's a cowboy town and you know a music town. Like it's cool. And down in the stockyards, like they're filming a bunch of stuff. I don't know what or if it's for Yellowstone or what, but it's a lot of hot going on around here. It's fun.
Well, speaking of music, obviously the Yellowstone show, amazing music. Talking about Fort Worth, what do you listen to? Do you have pump up music before you ride, or just in general, what are you listening to these days?
Man, I'm kind of all over the place, but I stick pretty close to the. I mean, I don't know if you want to call it Texas country or what you call the local music around here, around Texas and Oklahoma, and I mean, not even just that though. Like because I love Sturgill Simpson, Tyler Childers. You know, like the more. I'm not so much into all the mainstream, I guess, as much, but I'll tell you what, I've been all summer long. A friend of mine, Red Shahan, has an album out right now, Javelina, and I've always loved Red's music, and I love this album. It's cool, man. I've been jamming it a lot, and I don't know. Chancey Williams is a rodeo guy that has some cool music out, he's not local to here. He's more up around Wyoming. I've got a buddy from right here around Fort Worth that's putting out some cool music right now. His name's Garrett Bradford. But man, really that Red Shahan, I've been jamming that a bunch recently, and just I don't know. That's kind of been my go-to recently.
Sturgill just ruptured his vocal cord. I don't know if you saw that.
Oh, no, I didn't see.
He's going to be out for a while, he said.
Yeah, probably like years.
Wow,
that's brutal. Do you listen to music before you ride? Is it like, are you like Michael Phelps where you're just like in the zone, kind of like mean mugging?
No, I mean, shit, man, we spend so much time in a truck traveling down the road. I'll listen to a lot of music, but once I get to the rodeo, I'm more kind of in the moment and just bullshitting with my buddies and kind of getting ready. But I mean, pump up music. I like old rock and roll. Like there's a guy out of Nashville, and he's not old. I guess he's out of Nashville. I'm not super knowledgeable, but Tyler Bryant and the Shakedown, like they put out some pretty cool rock and roll music. Sounds like to me. I like that. And I don't know, like just any kind of old rock and roll. I like Gary Clark Jr. He's got some cool guitar stuff I like to listen to.
He's killer.
Yeah, I mean, I just kind of rock and roll. I like rap from like 2000s, you know, like
that's well, we recently posted a video that went viral on our Instagram reels. It's this kid dancing at like a
county fair or something.
County fair. But we put like the game of 50 Cent like on the real song, and it went viral. And it's like that was like the heyday. We're all similar age,
right?
And so we were talking about burnt CDs, and it's like my burnt CD I remember the first song was Brooks and Dunn, Ain't Nothing About You, I think was the song. And then my second song was like 50 Cent, like I don't even know.
Candy Shop.
Yeah. And then my third song's like Eminem or Nelly. And then my like fifth song with them was like Chris Cagle. And then like, you know, it's just like this mix of like country from the early 2000s and then rap. Like that was my high school, was rap. And country music. And everybody listened to both for the most part.
Right.
So it's like, I totally get that. But then like the rap changed so much, I feel like. So I still go back, I'll listen to Snoop Dogg, Dr. Dre and stuff. And I really enjoy it. They're doing the Super Bowl show.
Yeah. Oh, no kidding.
There you go. Like they gotta like finally, like I feel like they picked a group that you're like, oh, this sounds awesome.
Yeah. They should let Snoop Dogg just commentate the Super. Like,
I know, right?
Anything.
Right.
Have you been watching Peyton Manning and Eli Manning do the?
I've just caught clips. Like I don't have.
Dude, it's so good.
Like
it's made me care again. Like about actually having the volume up. Usually I would just have like
those guys are so funny.
Oh, they're funny as hell, dude.
I love it.
And then they're bringing on guests too, that like they brought on Favre, who just like doesn't even know how to work his computer. He's like up here, like this thing on.
And then Nick Saban's trying to recruit their like nephew, Arch
right.
Manning.
No, the only reason he was on there was a recruiting mission.
You mentioned earlier that you had a buddy up in Wyoming, and I imagine the rodeo scene in Wyoming is pretty prevalent as well. Are there certain areas or cities where you're like, man, I love this rodeo crowd, or like, oh, I love riding here, or this part of the country's got the best rodeo fans?
And it's hard to places you would never guess will have the best fans and the coolest rodeo too. Like it's rodeo's cool because every time you go to town, it's like that town's celebration pretty much. You know what I mean? And so like Fort Worth rodeo is awesome. It's huge. The whole town gets behind it. It's a real big deal. It's in a building, you know, but then you go 30 miles down the road to Weatherford rodeo and it's an outdoor deal. It's not near as big, but the crowd's there. Like it's cool for a lot of different reasons. You know what I mean? But like a lot of like, I don't know, Cheyenne, Wyoming's a big rodeo town and they have a real storied rodeo there. It's got a lot of history behind it, but one town that like really blows it out and has a lot of history behind it, and it's a really small town, is Pendleton, Oregon. Like you wouldn't believe, like the whole town shuts down for the week of the rodeo and probably a few days before, a few days after. And it's not a very big place. And then so many people come in and out of there, and the rodeo hasn't changed a lot since, the 1900s when it started. It's still out in the middle of this big grass field. It's a lot different than a lot of the rodeos we compete at as far as just how wild and Western it is. And it's damn sure something to see. That's for sure.
Oregon's awesome. Like when we were looking at houses, I was looking everywhere. I was just curious about like property in other places that are beautiful, like out West. Oregon's like so beautiful. Like nobody ever, I guess Wes and I do know somebody who lives in Oregon, but overall you're like, I don't meet people that live in Oregon, right? People stay.
Yeah.
Like,
Right.
It's like, because it's really pretty, and like there's like elk running through the beaches, and like it just
it's
and like looks like an awesome
Northern
place
California,
to go to.
Oregon, Washington, that whole West Coast, man, it's cool.
Yeah.
And there's like, you get out and you can get into some country there that you feel like maybe nobody's ever seen before. Like Bigfoot might be around the next tree.
Yeah.
It's like jungle.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you, obviously Cinch Jeans is a sponsor who sponsoring the podcast as well, but Crown Royal is another one of yours that you've been with.
Yeah.
So you're a fan of Crown Royal. We love whiskey here.
Right.
Crown Royal is using a lot of country songs weirdly, and it's kind of weird, right? Like, why do country artists gravitate towards Crown Royal? Hangover wise for you, if you're doing too much Crown Royal, what's your go-to? What's your hangover cure that's going to set you straight the next morning?
Man, after I turned about 27, I haven't found a real good cure.
Yeah, that's the age.
Pretty much the best cure is not to go down that road if I don't want to really reap the benefits. But man, I used to party a lot, used to hang out a lot. I don't know, life's kind of changed. The main hangover cure I have is to try not to overdo it much more than I have to, I guess. But I try not to get enough hangovers to have a go-to hangover cure anymore.
Yeah, that's true. Like I think I've had like 2 or 3 hangovers total since my kid's been born. It's like a year and a half almost. You just can't do it. You can't function.
Kind of like it's like taking a vacation. Like you got to have a day after to get over and get back.
That's it. Like you can do it if you have like help or the grandma's over.
Oh yeah, with the kid now it's out of the question.
If you can take a nap, grandma's over to watch the kid. You can get hung over the night before. Boom, that's your like. I got it. Like I can do it. Other than that, you got to be smart with it. Otherwise, Wes is so young, a few weeks old, basically. Yeah. Like there's nothing worse to me in the world than being hungover and having to deal with your 1-year-old or baby. There's nothing worse. You're yawning every 5 seconds. Your eyes are watering. You're nauseous. You're all you want is McDonald's breakfast. Like. It's just like it's torture. Like, so you gotta
it's like if any other thing was going on, the kid would want to be sleeping all day long. But at the point where you want to do that,
let's play football. It's 90 degrees and sunny. Oh, this is a great time to go in the backyard and play football. I can't. I'm gonna die. I'm gonna pass out and die. like it's so true though. It's like, oh man. But yeah, the McDonald's breakfast is always a go-to for me.
I think you just need another beer. Like That's all.
That
Like,
does do
no,
the trick.
just
Yeah.
one. Like it's 10
If
in
I
the
can
morning.
get going
you
in the
know?
morning, have a little breakfast drink and some big greasy eggs, maybe a big burrito, and just kind of limp through the rest of the day, I'll be all right as long as I don't have too much to do.
Yeah.
I feel like
What's go ahead?
I would say I feel like Texas is a good spot for like hungover brunch. You get like
Oh,
a
yeah.
Tex-Mex burrito kind of deal.
I
Like
feel like I work for the city of Fort Worth, but I'm telling you what, dude, like the food
Go ahead.
in Fort Worth is so awesome. Like I don't know what Fort Worth's looking to do, but I mean, I'm your guy.
So
Like I love it.
can you explain? Cause we love Texas. We've been in Texas quite a few times. Wes had his bachelor party in Austin, and I always hear like, was it the old Cowboy Stadium or whatever? There's like Dallas Fort Worth area. They always kind of say it together, but
Right.
Dallas is way different, right? Than
Two
Fort
different
Worth.
countries. I never
Okay.
realized it though. I didn't grow up here. Like I said, I grew up in East Texas and just about 2 hours east of Dallas. And we'd go to Six Flags, whatever. You're going to Dallas, DFW, Dallas Fort Worth, whatever. Like I just thought it was the same place, and it is definitely totally different. Like Fort Worth is a cowboy town. Dallas is like
Finance guys with their slick back hair.
Yeah, like I mean, it's seriously like Dallas, Austin, Houston. Like, I mean, Houston's different. Houston's its own animal too, but it's
got the oil game.
Dallas is definitely I don't know. Fort Worth is definitely more my scene. I like it more over here, but there's cool stuff in Dallas too, though. No doubt about that.
I had a couple roommates from Dallas. They both went to A&M, but they both told me that I would love Fort Worth. They were like, that's the place where you would need to go and you would enjoy that. Yeah. And I've never been, but I was like, I'll take your word for it.
Yeah, you guys already come to town sometime. I'll show you all around. It's fun.
Oh, hell yeah.
Let's do it.
Texas in general, like everybody's moving there, right? Everybody's moving to Tennessee, Texas, and Colorado and getting the hell out of places like California and stuff. Have you noticed an influx where you're at or not really?
It's not it's not just right here in Fort Worth. I don't notice it like
Austin's
crazy, but
big,
like
yeah.
around I have friends that have probably that or were in Austin and have moved this way now, and just Austin's totally changed, just even in the my adult life. It's crazy. It was more of a cowboy town, back in the back, and now it's definitely something totally different. And it's just the country around there is so pretty and stuff, and like you can sell a regular home in California for a couple $1 million and then move to Texas and buy a friggin' ranch right there, basically. You know what I'm saying? So it's like it's a no brainer for these people, but it's definitely it's a thing. I don't mind more people coming here. I just wish they would remember why they came here.
Two things. Was it Josh Abbott who was talking about like how Austin used to be with the musicians wanting to play, downtown and all that. Now they can't even afford to live there, so that there's less of that happening. But some big business guy wants to kind of think about a way to like almost create like a condo building or whatever where they can live there for an affordable price. Cool concept. Whatever. Maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. But that's kind of sad. It's like that used to be the place you would move, you would grind it out, but now it's like even the areas that used to be shitty. Now the guy trying to make it playing his songs, like he can't even afford to live there, so then maybe he's not performing there, and it's just kind of like, damn, that sucks, because we loved it. We love seeing the music there. It was much more untouched than Nashville's become. Nashville is like a complete like Disney World circus of
I was blown away. I enjoyed it. I went there a few years ago, but just having done the music scene here and in Texas and stuff, like it was totally different than what I was expecting. Like, I'd never seen someone in a bar or restaurant playing music off of a phone, like reading the words and the music off of the phone. Like, these guys around here are writing their own music. And it's just a totally different deal. It looked like to me. I'm not one's better or the other. I don't know, but it was just like, it wasn't what I was totally expecting. I guess.
You walk into any bar on Broadway and you're gonna hear Wagon Wheel within 10 minutes.
It's just
it gets worse than Wagon Wheel. They're covering it got so, oh man, now all these articles are coming out like what happened in Nashville. It's all, I'm like, people that have lived there have seen this happening the last like decade. It's like it's that doesn't sound like, it sounds like a long time, but it's really not. It's like boom, quick, like, and then all of a sudden everything changes and everything becomes commercialized, and
that's how everything goes, right? Like,
well, maybe you're talking about Fort Worth. Maybe Fort Worth becomes the next, because it's happening. These places that you never thought would become these like booming. Denver, for example, where I'm at, like 10 years ago, nobody was like really talking about it. Now it's like you can't even, like, everybody wants to move. And then Bozeman, and then
Montana blowing up right now.
Yeah, so you're gonna people are just like waking up and they're just moving to these places that are more untouched, I feel like.
Yeah, I was in Montana at the beginning of the year, and I thought it was beautiful. And then I looked at the prices of stuff. I'm like, Jesus Christ, it's pretty expensive.
I don't know how I could afford to live there, but some friends of mine have a property there, and we've been fortunate enough the last 2 summers to get to spend a pretty good amount of time there south of Missoula in that Bitterroot Valley. And man, it's freaking cool. It's beautiful country, that's for sure.
Can I ask you, because we talked about some injuries earlier. I saw a video I almost shared, but I didn't want Instagram to flag it for some whatever. A guy got kicked in the face by a horse because he was drunk with his cowboy boots on, trying to get on a horse. Horse laid him out with his back kick. For you guys and what you do, what's the worst injury you've ever seen? I've made the huge mistake once on Reddit of seeing like the not safe for work, like blurred out. Oh, like a guy was it in Spain or Mexico? Guy got gored so bad. And I clicked on the video being like, oh, I don't know what happens, because it was very vague. And I saw the injury, and the bullhorn like went through here and at the eyeball. Guy died. Yeah. Just like, ugh. But for you guys, obviously, like there's a lot of, whether it's bull or horse or whatever, but do you know anybody that's gone through some crazy shit? Have you ever gone through some crazy shit, or what's the worst one you've seen? Because I don't know if people realize how dangerous it can be.
In my deal, like, in the horse riding, you're not going to get gored by a horn, right?
You're right.
So you're not going to have that sort of thing happen. But one thing that happens in our event, like the horses will like flip over on top of a guy. And one of the top guys in the world, his name's J.R. Verzane. This was like 3 years ago. He's a cinch guy also. He qualified to the national finals in our event a handful of times, was one of the greatest bareback riders to ever do it. And just a freak deal is this time of year, 3 or 4 years ago, horse flipped over on him. It doesn't even look like a super bad thing, but it breaks his back. He's in a wheelchair ever since, that's
shit.
Like, that's to me, that's the most just gut wrenching things. But JR on the other hand, JR has done great things since then. He's a good Christian guy, and he's got a real positive message to push, and he wouldn't want anyone feeling sorry for him. And he was great at what he did. And to see something like that happen to him, it makes it a little more real for a guy like me. You kind of get used to thinking like maybe you've got to a point where you're good enough that something like that couldn't happen to you, but they don't get better than JR, and it still happened to him, And so those kind of things, a guy like, on a lighter note, I guess, when you fall off away like if you ride right-handed and you fall off to the left side, your hand's going to hang in that bareback rig and it's just going to drag you around there. So you see guys get drugged around and stomped. One of the worst ones I'd seen was like that. A guy got drugged around and stomped, the guy I traveled with, Casey, he got stomped in the head like 2 years ago, and he's doing all right. He's back riding. He won a world championship, but suffered a major head injury. And I would think, the most probably head injuries are probably pretty common in our event. I don't know. Just a lot of impact there, and anyway, like not a lot of goring, but stepping on, smashing, horses falling, breaking things like that. That's kind of the more common deals.
Yeah.
FSOBs, man.
Right. I would imagine like a separated or dislocated like shoulder and stuff. Maybe you get your arm stuck under there, right?
Yeah. Like, there's a lot of that. Guys twist their legs, knees. It's craziest things. Probably like, I don't know, any other event where there's, big wrecks like that. Like the things that happen that you think, oh God, that guy, he's dead. No questions asked. Like they'll just I've seen guys get up and walk away, and myself been fortunate enough to walk away from stuff like that where you think it should have killed you. And then, you see a guy like a friend of mine, Julian Witcher, he same deal, like came off of a horse, and it really didn't look to me at the time, like I watched it happen, it didn't look that bad. He's still in a wheelchair. You know what I mean? Like it's one of those things. Like, when bad things happen, what I mean? It does. And in a sport like that, there's so many things you can't control with the animal and everything. Like shit's just going to happen.
I think it's one of those things too. If you've never been on top of a horse, it is a lot taller than you think it is. Cause you're on their back and then your head is up here and you're like, man, I'm 10 feet from the ground. Like,
Well, and then they jump another foot or two off
Yeah.
the ground, you know what I'm saying, and then
Right.
throws you. Like, I mean, it's crazy
15-foot
things
drop.
you live through, I guess. I don't know.
Like,
It doesn't seem that bad until you start talking about it like that.
and then it's like falling off a goddamn roof. Like,
Right.
We take our just over a 1-year-old to he's like adopted a goat at like a ranch nearby here in Colorado, and but it's really cool because they have horses that are like retired from doing whatever they were doing, different types, and they use them for like therapy and like people for like depression, anxiety, which is awesome. Like you talked about it earlier. But totally to your point, Wes, when you walk up and they're super gentle here, obviously, but like you're like, this is the size of these things. I don't know, like a lot of people, most people that see a horse on TV have never been by one. You know what I mean?
You just
like
don't understand what 1,700 pounds looks like.
Right. And a moving animal.
You know?
Yeah, exactly. And they're majestic and they're smart, and you can like kind of feel, like you said earlier, like them understanding.
So cool how they use them with the therapy and stuff like that.
Yeah,
my wife is
really cool.
a mental health care professional, and like she's the one that explained all that to me, you know, and how they use them in those therapy settings, just because horses are so intuitive, you know, and just they can tell the difference between being around a child or someone with special needs as opposed to being around me that's about to try to ride them or whatever. And it's such a cool thing. Horses are badass for sure.
I don't know if you saw, we're wrapping up here, but like Clint Eastwood, I don't know if you're a fan, but his new movie Cry Macho, have you heard of?
I've heard of the movie. I haven't seen.
You haven't seen? I haven't seen it either yet. I was curious if you've seen it, but I guess it's like a rodeo based movie. It has some substance abuse elements to it, of like trying to get a rodeo guy back into it from his alcoholic mom. But I was like, is that cool when you hear about like a guy like Clint Eastwood making a movie that's kind of based around the rodeo life in some ways?
I do. I think Clint Eastwood, it puts out a great message. I think he's whether he wears a cowboy hat every day or not, that guy's a cowboy. This is the way he operates and the way he does things, you know. And I've always been a big fan of his movies in the past. And I mean, he's always been a driving force in the Western industry with other Western movies and stuff. And so it always makes you feel, it's just like, you know, the Yellowstone deal, like the fact that to me, the fact that the real world, well, I guess is what I would call it, is interested in rodeo is awesome. It's cool. You know, I mean, because I think the more people that see it, the more people that become interested in it, because it is truly an interesting sport and an interesting lifestyle. And I think you get someone like Clint Eastwood, who's a great storyteller and great director. And, you know, I think you're going to see something awesome. I'm excited to see it.
I think Scott Eastwood, his son, Wes, was he on Joe Rogan, and he said that Clint Eastwood never would give him a role. He would say, you got to go audition the same way.
Yeah.
I've heard like to that point, like that's like a real like dad. Like, no, I'm not going to give you anything. I'm going to make you work for it.
Earn it. Yep.
Earn it.
Yeah. That's cool.
It's the cowboy way. You got to earn it.
That's right.
Well, till then, dude, this has been a lot of fun for us. Thank you again to Cinch Jeans for sponsoring the podcast and one of your sponsors. And dude, we're huge fans. I had a lot of fun, and we're gonna be following the hell out of you. We're gonna share this. The giveaway is gonna be awesome. And thanks again, dude, and stay safe out there, man. And
heck yeah, man. I enjoyed visiting with you guys, and like I said, if you guys get around Fort Worth, y'all have my contact info.
We have to, like, we've been itching to get back to Texas.
A little bit about what's going on around here.
Yeah, we got to get back down there.
Yeah, I'm gonna try and check out a rodeo at some point.
Yeah,
soon.
hell yeah, that's a good start.
Yeah,
cool.
You guys should come out to Vegas for the national finals rodeo.
Our just us, not the wives, not the kids. They would love it.
That's nothing for kids out there in Vegas. We do all know.
I'm just picturing you guys going around like gambling with your cowboy hats on, and after.
Hey man, like you seriously
Suits,
never
buckles,
seen Vegas look the way it does during the national finals rodeo, because you go into those casinos and it's just a sea of cowboy hats everywhere. Like it is, everyone there is. It looks like you moved Fort Worth, Texas to Las Vegas. It's
I love it.
I mean, I'm a big fan of that cowboy hat, suit, big ass belt buckle, especially one that you won, not one that you bought. Like that's a good look, man.
It's pretty.
The same. Another one of my friends told me, he's like, hell, it's a universal outfit. It's the outfit that settled the West.
That it's gonna be. We're trying to figure out the kids, like, this is whatever, but like the Halloween costume for the kid, and I'm like, We have a black German Shepherd. I'm like, we're gonna make Maverick, his name, look like a horse. We're gonna make the kid get a belt buckle, get his fucking cowboy hat and his flannel. He's gonna be a little cowboy. Like,
I like it. It'll be good.
All right, buddy. Dude.
Cool. You guys have a good one.
You too, man. Stay safe. See ya.
Thank you.